Right, the weather has been rubbish, so we're gonna delve into the hothouse today and we're gonna ask one simple question. Is this the biggest colocasia species you can grow? And I'm referring to, and I'm sure the camera has just missed it up slightly, but I'm sure that'll adjust to the humidity level soon enough. So it's going to be a bit foggy, misty for a second. Yeah, so is this the biggest colocasia species we can grow? I'm in the UK. It is very rarely we get decent summers or decent high temperatures. We do occasionally. So let's have a look at the plant in question, and before you all scream out Leucocasia Thai giant, that is not a true colocasia. It is a cross between a colocasia and alocasia, I believe. So it's not actually a colocasia straight. So I'm going to say that this Jack's giant is the biggest species, and obviously free to tell me if you know better, if you know a bigger growing. And when we talk about big growing, and we're talking about height to an extent, but mainly the leaf size. And like I say, this has just opened up a new leaf. So let's have a bit of a closer look. So I do grow a lot of colocasia. Tried a lot of different species over my time. You know, for the few years I've been, 5 or 6 years, I've been growing sort of tropicals. And there's many species, you know, many types, cultivars, hybrids. They all have a decent sized leaf, but they do vary a lot. And I will say a lot of the more fancy leaf varieties, and we're talking, yeah, you know, your Redemptions, White Lava, anything sort of like that, they get decent sized leaves up to sort of 2 foot, I'd imagine, but not massive leaves. So if you want to go for straight size, you know, big dominant size, then you'll be looking at, like I say, I believe the Jack's Giant is the biggest type. I know there's a few other types that claim to be pretty big, and like I say, the Leucocasia Thai giant, I think there's 2 variants of that. You got the Laos giant and the standard Thai giant. They do get absolutely massive. I have got a couple, but I'm not going to include them 2 types in this video because, like I say, they're not true colocasias, where this one is. So this has opened a new leaf in the last couple of days, sort of hardening off. I guess it's pretty much full size, and I have measured it. I did mean to bring a tape measure with me, and I know you're going to say, oh, exaggerating the size. That'd be very unlike a man to exaggerate size, but anyway, so let's have a close look. So if I put my hand on it, I mean, it's hard to get it in frame when you're close up. There's my hand, there's the leaf, and it's just over 3 foot long and just under 2 foot wide. So it's big, and they can get bigger. Height wise, it is about 6 foot, or a fraction under maybe. So I thought the last leaf was big, but yeah, so again, we're in early June, so really just the start of summer. And like I say, the weather's not feeling much like it, but in here it is. So yeah, what I'd like to say is I have actually left these in the ground. I've got one coming up from last year, so they are fairly hardy. You know, they're pretty close to colocasia esculenta, and they always come back for me. So I'm not going to say they're hardy in the UK, but in my garden they are. I'm on very sandy soil and free draining, and we did have a very wet winter this winter just gone, and still come back. So they are hardy to an extent, but obviously a lot of people would want to dig them up, dry storm, or just keep them in a pot over winter and get them going a bit early in the spring, because obviously the one I've got in the garden is considerably smaller. It's literally only got like a 6-inch leaf at the minute, because it's only just come up. So yeah, if you want giant size, you're gonna have to, like a lot of tropicals, you'll want to get them started early in your greenhouse or whatever to get the full size for sort of mid summer to late summer. But yeah, I mean, let me know if you grow Jack's Giant and what's the biggest leaf you've had from it. I did grow this last year. I actually brought this one as a plug plant. I did have a couple in the garden which I, like I say, left in, but I brought a little plug just to see from a tiny plug how long it would take to bulk up. So last year, from a plug size, so from a tiny plug, I'd imagine the biggest leaf I got was probably a little bit less than this one, so a little bit bigger than this last year from a plug. And this is obviously a second year. The tuber has, or quorm has, sort of built up over last summer, and yeah, this second year is really starting to explode. So what we'll do is we'll revisit this mid-late summer, and we'll see exactly how giant these Jack's Giants get. What I will say is that is throwing out a pup at the side here that we can see, and look at the little tiny leaf on that. But yeah, nice thick little pup, so I will divide that off. We certainly don't want more than one of these in here, because space is going to be an issue. Right, so again, if you've grown Jack's Giant, let me know the biggest leaf you've had. Let me know if you know of a different species, variety that gets bigger. And again, exclude Thai Giant, because we're just talking about colocasias here, something that grows a quorm, which Thai Giant really takes quite a few years to build up a quorm. Yeah, so that is a giant elephant ear. Like I say, winter care is quite easy. If you've grown it in the garden, dig it up, put it in dry compost, keep it dry and cool over the winter, and get it started off in your early spring to get the maximum size for midsummer. Again, if you like to experiment, I've found them pretty tough. They do tend to survive the winter for me in the ground, but obviously they're going to take a lot longer to get going, and you're not going to get the full potential over the summer. You still get decent sized leaves, but you're not going to get anything like if you started it off early. Everything applies to any sort of tropical greedy plant: bananas, colocasias, cannas. Plenty of water, plenty of feed. They will grow aquatically, so you can have them as a marginal in a pond. But what I would say is, when the leaves get this size in the outdoor environment, obviously they're going to be subject to wind, so you're going to need a heavy pot or a stake at least, just to stop the wind catching them giant leaves and blowing them about. Right, not much else I can say. I mean, like I say, we are growing some other fancier types, and like I say, you'll get moderate sized leaves, sort of mid-size I'd say. So like I say, we've got the it is very wet in here because I've just had the sprinklers going. The marigold, One of my favourite types. Again, sort of a plain leaf, but very different colour contrast to the sort of dark green of the Jack's Giant there. So it's more of a sort of golden, limey green, very nice. And also what we've got in here is the Redemption, which again, the leaf may be pushing about a foot on that one, and it's now starting to colour up. Yeah, a lot of the other colocasias I have been sort of starting off early, I've now put into the garden, and they're sort of been at a standstill for the last couple of weeks again because of the weather's been so rubbish. Well, we'll have a quick look while we're here and the camera's rolling. So I have got a Thai giant here, colocasia Thai giant. This is the Laos giant type, so it's supposed to be big. This one I did overwinter indoors. It pretty much died back to one tiny leaf and sort of held that all winter, and it's now just starting to come back into growth. So that is what that looks like. Not a giant by any means at the moment. I have got another one which I actually brought this year, which is very small. So I've just potted that up into a big pot. So we'll see how that one does as well. Yeah, again, so I've got a few here which I haven't actually put out in the garden yet. So we've got a white lava, which is now starting to unfurl. Looking quite nice. Couple of black magics which are sort of a little bit behind. We have got a coal miner. So this is one of the nice darker leaf varieties. Sort of dark matte leaf with sort of green veining. As the leaf or leaves get bigger, they do tend to be a more prominent green veining in them, and they are quite nice. What I will say is, before we go, let's just finish up on, if we can fight our way through the foliage. We have got a little Pharaoh's Mask here, which has recently opened up a new leaf, which is starting to get quite nice, sort of the 3D effect on that. Again, all these alocasias, colocacias, and all the sort of tropical plants you see in this area have been permanently planted in the hothouse in a raised bed. So we see plenty of cold temperatures and still growing away nicely. And there's a little pup on the Pharaoh's Mask there. And just to add a touch of colour, I couldn't resist. I was in Homebase the other day and they had some bougainvilleas half price. I think they're normally 25 quid. They have them at 12.50. So I thought, well, they're not hardy really outside, but we'll give it a go in here. So that's been permanently planted, and I'll put a little bit of trellis up the side here, and we'll see if that fills out. So that's going to be a nice pop of colour, and they're quite nicely scented as well, them flowers. Sort of a light purple, them ones, and flower all summer. And I'm not quite sure how vigorous they are, but we'll find out. But hopefully, yeah, in a year or two, we'll have that growing up all along the side of the wall. That'd be quite nice. Right. So one last reminder, let me know if you know if there's a bigger species of colocasia than the Jack's Giant, and also let me know how big your Jack Giant got last year. Right, thanks for watching, we'll catch you on the next one.